Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Random Talks, when we talk everything random that you like so that you can practice your listening skills. With you, as usual, I'm Teacher David. Hello. And I have here as my lovely co-host, I have Teacher Carlos with me.
Hello, guys. Nice to see you again. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love to see you here again. So remember that you can follow us in every social media. So Teacher Carlos, can you remind all of the social media?
Yeah, we are on Facebook. We are very active on Instagram and also on TikTok. Teacher Pablo is making amazing content over there. Very useful if you need any tips on your writing, your pronunciation, or anything that you need. You can go and check the TikToks are amazing. You can also listen to us in Spotify. And also you can look for our podcast on Google Podcast and Apple Podcast.
Yep, that's right. So to introduce the topic for today, I would like to ask you a question, Teacher Carlos, that I'm sure you are familiar with. That is, how us as Mexicans, right? We always are saying to our students, or even our parents have told us this, that you have to learn English, because it's going to be useful, and you have to learn it because it's going to open many doors, right? So I think, and I'm sure that this has happened to you, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, all the time. It's something that you hear since you are starting, like, getting serious with your studies, when you are aware that that school is gonna be useful someday, right?
Yeah.
So you start getting comments from your parents and everything that English is gonna be important eventually. And yeah, it's funny because they used to tell me that a lot. I used to ignore it, and now I use it pretty much every day, and I teach it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and my question is, because have you ever wondered what it is like for people who already speak English? Like, do they get like a second language? Are they pressured to learn another language, a foreign language? So that's what we are going to talk about today. And for that, we have a very special guest who is Teacher Adam Kelly. Hello, teacher.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast today. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Yeah,
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
We're glad to have you. We're very excited.
Yeah, and the first thing that I would like to ask you is that you tell us a little bit of your background, like where are you from, maybe what you studied.
What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the best place to start is somewhere near the beginning. So I was born in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. I was born in a little town called Ballyclare, and I live out in the countryside. So all my family are farmers. So I grew up working on farms as a kid. I went to school, Ballyclare. I studied, then managed to get into and get a place at university, and the university was in Scotland. So when I was 18, I moved to Scotland by myself to go study geography. Yeah, so Dundee, it's a beautiful town up in the north of Scotland. Wonderful weather all year round for a Scottish city. So it's not too cold. It's not snowing all the time. So I got my degree and then spent a few years working in bars and restaurants and different things like that, trying to figure out what to do next. And got kind of bored working in the bar, wanted to do something different, and saw an advertisement in a newspaper for an English language school. And they were training English language teachers to teach English as a second language, teach English as a foreign language. And so I thought, that sounds interesting, an opportunity to travel the world, see different places, different countries. And I signed up to the course, got my teacher training, and then started applying for teaching jobs all around the world, from Cambodia to Kenya to Peru and Mexico as well. And it was, in fact, a school in Tlaquepaque, Guadalajara, that contacted me and asked if I would like an interview. We had an interview over the telephone. And about 7 days later, I was in Mexico.
All right. Pretty fast.
Yeah, so I just went, yeah, Mexico sounds brilliant. I don't really know a lot about it, but it's going to be fun. So I just went on an adventure and ended up loving it. Met my wife there in Guadalajara, and
nice.
and 4 years ago we moved to La Paz to get married and settle down. And that's where I am now. And I'm here currently teaching English with Columbus School in La Paz.
All right.
That's a whole journey. Like, I don't know, that's probably amazing to think the opportunities that it has given you to try to teach and be interested in teaching. So you never know where it's going to take you, right?
No, not at all. Yeah, just I was 27, around about that sort of age, and just I want to do something new, something different. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to experience living in a different country, and with the extra challenge of I arrived in Mexico and I spoke no Spanish. I could say hello, and that was about it.
All right.
So I had to start from scratch, and that was all part of the adventure and part of the challenge as well, to really put yourself in a difficult situation and see how you can survive and cope with it.
Yeah, and I think that especially that special comment brings me to the next question, which is in your home country, right? Do you have like us that we say study English because it's going to be important, because it's going to be useful? Do you have something similar but with another language? Because you already speak English, right?
I think it's one of the UK's biggest problems. The fact that a second language isn't really encouraged at school.
Right.
We, from the age of 11 to 13, we had to learn French and German at school.
All right.
Or in our second year at high school, we can choose French and Spanish or German and Spanish. But it's kind of an afterthought. The language class in school would be 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you just sort of, you do it for those first 2 years, and then you don't do that subject the next year when you move up into a higher class. You choose your subjects then, and so languages is usually the one that's set aside, so you can study other things instead. So language, it's a real shame, but we aren't really encouraged to speak a second language. And when you travel, you understand kind of why we don't, because everyone learns English as their second language. So if we go to Japan, they're not going to try and speak to me in Spanish. They would try and speak to me in English. And that's kind of the same anywhere in the world you go, which is what makes English a great second language to learn, because it's everyone's second language.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on the proximity of each country with the countries that they are like near. For example, in the US, it's very common for students to have Spanish classes, right?
Yeah.
So that's very common because at the end of the day, they are very close to that. It's very useful for them to have Spanish as a second language. But in this case, I think that also because of the proximity of French and also German, that it becomes very useful. I can understand it that way, but that's true. I mean, even tourists here, when they come to Mexico, they can find things very easily because we speak English to them, even though that they're not in their country, right? And I understand that some countries or some cultures are very proud of their language. They want to kind of force it into some tourists. But here we're very flexible. I've noticed that we try to speak English, even though that that we
Yeah,
really
even people who don't really know how to speak English or can't, they'll still try. And I think it's part of the Mexican character is that you're naturally very welcoming people, and you want people to feel more relaxed and more at ease in your company. And so if you can make that little effort to try and speak English to a foreigner, then they do it. I've noticed that quite often.
Yeah, and how was the process of learning Spanish? Was it difficult for you? Was it easy?
It's still difficult. I'm still learning. I'm still improving slowly, day by day, week by week. But it's a challenge. It's really difficult when you get to an adult and you've never really spent time learning a language. When you were younger, as I said earlier, there are language classes 1 hour a week. That's not enough to be able to really learn a language. All we would learn in class would be a list of vocabulary and then how to say hello, nice to meet you. I have a shirt, that kind of stuff. And yeah, we would just repeat that to the teacher. So I never really had a basis for understanding how to learn a language either. And so it's sort of, and then you've got the difficulty of the way English is structured and the way we use pronouns and the way we form verbs is so different to Spanish. And it can be really kind of daunting and scary when you first start. And you're looking at, for example, the verb to have. And you're like, okay, so this is irregular in English, but I still have in present tense, have, has, having. Okay, so I've got 3 words to learn. Past tense, had. Okay, I use that with all my pronouns. So I just need to remember singular or plural. And then you look at the Spanish and you're like, wow, there's 6 different ways just in the present tense, 6 different ways in the past tense. And suddenly your head's just like, it's too much to learn. I'm never going to learn. But what I find is that, you notice little shortcuts as time goes by and you see the little connections, and you then sort of subconsciously over time start kind of just guessing what you think would be the right option. Because you've seen the patterns often enough that you go, okay, well, this kind of has to be like that. And so it's difficult for an English speaker, a native English speaker, learning any language, I think, because of that. And I think it's also why like Spanish speakers or French speakers or Italian speakers find it so easy then to pick up one of the other romance languages. Because the structures are essentially the same.
Syntax and everything.
Only really changing pronunciations. And some words are different. But the majority, the meat and bones of the language is very similar. But English is very different. And so just getting your head to think in a slightly different way can be the most difficult part of it. Because I'm so patterned and used to speaking in English and forming structures in English that to do it in Spanish is to really imagine the world in a different way.
That's what I always tell this to my students. Whenever you're learning another language, it's another way to see the world, the universe in general, because it's pretty much a translation of what's on your mind and the way you perceive everything that is around you. So of course, it's pretty normal that when we are learning another language, of course, we're going to take, like general conventions of our mother tongue to understand the other one. So the thing here that I imagine it would have been very hard sometimes is that, you are teaching English and Spanish also is involved with other people. And we as teachers that we know already Spanish, that we speak Spanish with no problem, we can understand the student by their perspective and also teach from our perspective, learning English back in the day. So in this manner, it's easier for us to understand how to approach teaching the language. Now that I imagine you being in this situation in which you don't speak Spanish and you have to be able to to provide the student with examples that can be used as a reference. Probably that's a whole challenge. That's like amazing.
It is, but it's also kind of a really fun part of it, and you
Okay.
have to really think outside the box when you're trying to explain the meaning of a particular word.
Yes.
And you end up incorporating acting into your class because you're trying to
Yes.
maybe convey an emotion for the students to understand, or maybe you're trying to mime out an action or stuff like that. And you also then, I think a benefit of it in terms of learning vocabulary is that you often have to make the students play kind of word association.
Okay.
In English. And so they're not just thinking, okay, that word means that. They're building a picture of words around the word that you're teaching that they then associate with that. And it's part of the kind of the discovery of the meaning of it. And they're forming these connections with other similar words or opposite words or verbs that you use with it are all kind of coming together then as part of the explanation. And that can be a really satisfying thing for some students. For other students, it can be really difficult because they just want to know the answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't.
Yes.
They're like, okay, I just want to know what that word means because I'm really frustrated right now that I don't know that.
Yep.
And you're taking too long to explain it. And so it's finding a good balance where they can discover the meaning themselves through what you're telling them in English and not making that process too difficult. And so if something's taking too long, then I use the Spanish.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, we all understand now. And hopefully all the other stuff that I've just said kind of helps you remember that word rather than just, oh, that word is such and such in Spanish, back of the head, it's gone, it's forgotten. Whereas if you've gone through a bit of a process, it's maybe a little easier to remember. You remember the event, the situation where you learned that word as well.
I'm imagining, I don't know you, teacher Carlos, but I'm imagining teacher Adam's classes, and I'm already excited. I want to be part of those classes.
Yeah.
And I think that another thing that happens, and I think that you will agree, teacher Carlos, that us as Spanish speakers, for example, when we learn another language, when we learn English in particular, we kind of understand a little bit better our own mother tongue, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, definitely.
I would like to know if for you, teacher Adam, this has happened to English. Like when you were teaching English, has that made you understand a little bit better your own language?
100%. And I think I can speak for all native speakers of any language. We generally don't know how our own languages work.
Exactly.
Before I started my teacher training, I had never heard of the present continuous.
Yeah.
Those two words together, I had never heard before. And so I had to learn English. And there's still some things that I'm still learning. Some things come up in class, and I'm like, I've never thought of that before, because you never have to. You just use the language. And so it's been a real discovery in that regard, is that, okay, I'm actually learning how a language is formed and how, okay, so there's all these different components to a language. Where you just never think about it, because you speak it. And you don't need to think about it to be able to explain what you're thinking. You don't need to tell the person, oh, I'm using the present continuous because I'm describing a continuous action. You just know that that's the word you use in that situation, but you've never learned why you use that. And so that's been a real eye-opener for me as well, especially during my teacher training. I remember specifically that there was a French girl who was also training to become an English teacher. And so French is her first language, English is her second language, she's now learning how to teach in English. All the native speakers would go and ask her questions about grammar, because none of us knew. what we were looking at. And
Yes.
so go and ask the French girl, and she knew what English grammar was, but we didn't.
Yeah, that's fun. It's very similar to what happens to us during our our early studies, in primary school or elementary school. We have a Spanish class. It's very different, right? Of course, it's Spanish as a first language or mother tongue, right? And we try to learn it whenever we have the opportunity to check a little bit of grammar. It gets very annoying. At least it was for me when I was very, very young. And we had things like pretérito and copretérito and different times. And I went like, I don't really want to know about this because I don't really need it. But that's the thing. I thought about trying to teach Spanish in another country. That'll be like very interesting. But I would have to relearn my language because if I don't study, I will go like, well, it is like that. So I don't know why, but it is like that. So do it. So I would have to change that completely. So that's interesting.
Before I came out to Mexico, I called up my old English teacher at school, high school, and I went in to talk with him before I moved out to start teaching. Just to try and like, do you have books about grammar and stuff that I can borrow from you? Is there? So I was really nervous about that before my first class because I felt, what if someone asks me a question I don't know, and I should know because it's my language, and so you kind of make sure you're really prepared for classes, and you try and put your mind in a student and think, okay, what's the most obscure question I could ask here today, and try and do research on that before you have class. So you got to prepare for any questions if you're looking at grammar and stuff. But
your experience is so inspiring. At least it's inspiring me a lot because I'm turning 27 this year, and I've been thinking about having an experience like that. So I think this is an amazing point to consider, and all your experience makes me even more excited.
Yeah, like it would be super easy to just find a school somewhere in the world in a country you haven't been to. You already teach English, you've got the qualifications, apply for a job, go live in Vietnam for 6 months. And come back, just like it's a fantastic thing. Like if there's any students listening and they're thinking what to maybe do for a year, maybe take like a year before university, maybe want to take a gap year, maybe do a teacher training course. If you feel you've got really good English, take a teacher training course and maybe use that to travel so you can work, you can and afford and pay for your adventures around the world as well. So it would be something I would really recommend to anyone.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great advice.
This is a sign, guys. If you're thinking about it, this is a sign.
Do it.
Yes.
All right. So this was really, really good. I'm really glad that we could talk to you about all of these things, all about these language things that we thought about. So thank you so much, Teacher Adam, for your time and for being here.
No problem at all. I'm glad I could come along and share some of my experiences of being an English teacher in Mexico.
Yeah, and we hope to have you here back in another episode, hopefully.
Yes, I'm thrilled about what else happened. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I love to talk about just about anything. So whatever you can get me started, and it's hard to shut up.
All right, good. That's perfect. We like that.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for being here through the whole episode. So before we go, Teacher Carlos, can you remind us again, where can they find Columbus School?
Of course, yes. You can find us on Facebook. We're very active all the time. Instagram, is very popular. We're also using Instagram posts and everything. Go ahead and check it. We're also on TikTok with Teacher Pablo. Amazing content. Go ahead and watch it. Very useful. I always go and watch them again. Yeah, he's an amazing guy and very, very, very smart. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And also you can go and check and search us on Google Podcasts. You can find us there. And please share it. It helps us a lot. And also to grow and interact and give us ideas. We can have you here probably in the next one. That'll be great.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. What topics would you like to see on the podcast? If you would like to be with us as a guest, so all of that is welcome. All right, so that's gonna be it. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you very, very soon. All right, bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.